All right, so in today's episode of mounts that we have created for helmets, I'm going to be talking about the mount that we just made for the Fox V3 helmet. This is the newest helmet in Fox's lineup. They came out with this particular version of basically the same helmet for their 2021 lineup, and we just got it and made a mount for it. This is a lot like the rest of the mounts that we have created for helmets. It's got a couple of specific differences. It looks very similar to a lot of the other helmets that we made, but it took a lot of time and effort to actually get this one finished because there's some sort of unique bends here on the back side that were a little bit hard to match up to. But happy to say that this turned out great. It mounts up perfectly flush all the way around like you'd expect from the rest of our mounts, and it's very sturdy. Very much not going to come off anytime soon. So just to do a quick walkthrough of the features of these mounts, the mounts are mated up perfectly to the individual helmets that we've created these mounts for. We have mounts for the Fox V1, V2 from different year models dating back to I think 2015 up through the present. So we've got a bunch of these different ones. So if you're online and you're looking for the Fox V3 mount, make sure that you look at what year you're getting them for, because they're going to be all a little bit different. In this case, this one's significantly different than the last Fox V3. So one of the other things that we do specifically for the individual helmets is we set the distance from where it's mounted to where the mounting forks are. And that allows you to get a tilt back angle, right? So that you can get a parallel view of the horizon while you're in the attack position, while you're standing, and your head's tipped forward. Generally what that means is that the top of the eye port here is parallel with the horizon. So what we do is we make it so that the camera can mount in here parallel to the horizon as well, which is really nice. You don't have to get any adapters or anything like that to make it so that way you can get that mounting tip back angle. You can get a little bit of the handlebars, maybe the front fender of your bike, and like the rest of the trail, rather than like 10 feet of trail and like all of your dirt bikes. So it's definitely something we thought about when we were making these, and just a significant improvement when you're trying to get the right angle of the riding that you're doing. These mounts are 3D printed, meaning that we are able to change the design almost at any time if we find a feature that we can add to the lineup that makes it an improvement. And one of the things that we did recently was we thickened up the whole neck of our mounts and these forks, just make them a little bit more sturdy and just kind of protect the whole thing a little bit more. So that's a really nice feature of 3D printing. It's super strong. I personally love it. But it does give us that freedom and flexibility as a small batch manufacturer to make changes on the fly as we see improvements that need to be made. When it comes to the mounting forks, what we've done is we've reversed the screw direction. So most every GoPro mount that you buy from GoPro will have the screw going through this way. And what we were finding was that since the battery door is on this side, it's hard to get the battery door to open because you have to push down on this tab and then open the battery door this way. And the screw handle gets in the way of opening this battery door when you're using it without the media mod. So we've switched the screw direction, which completely removes that problem. And that's, just makes it easier to get batteries in and out and stuff like that. Lastly, with the features that we've included are these little tick marks that we have on the side of the mount. This is just a visual reference. If there's some reason maybe like you're an ADV rider and you're sitting down a lot more, you don't want to have your camera tipped back as much, so you want to run it maybe tilt forward so that you get that same parallel view of the horizon. Maybe you want to have a visual indicator of where that tilt angle is for the right angle that you're trying to accomplish. And for that reason, we've included these little tick marks here, and that will allow you to add that visual reference so you can set it and then just forget about it after that. So these mounts are mounted to the helmet with 3M mounting tape. It's the same stuff that GoPro uses on their mounts, except for we use probably 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much surface area. And we're mounting it obviously in 2 separate places rather than just the one that GoPro uses. It's extremely sturdy. We check all of them to make sure that they can hold at least 20 pounds, but a lot of them hold, like we've had some that hold up as much as 45 pounds. So they're really sturdy. They're definitely not gonna fall off. You don't have to worry about them. And the tape is also waterproof, so you don't have to worry about getting wet or anything like that. You can just hose out your helmet, don't worry about the mount, and just kind of, basically forget that it's there. So lastly, and we've gotten questions about this before, people want to know whether or not the mounts work with the media mod. And yes, obviously they do. We've made these mounts to work with the GoPro Hero 9 with the media mod, which is the same form factor as the Hero 10. And the media mod's the same on both cameras. So it works for all the newer cameras. You get the same tilt back angle, everything works fine. And the nice thing about it is that since and this isn't specific to our mounts, but like chin mounting in general, is that since it is right in front of your mouth, you get really good audio reception. And you can set to do an audio pickup from these media mods with an emphasis on the back of the mic. So if you were doing some sort of moto vlogging or something and you didn't want to run a mic, an external mic, you could put the emphasis on this shotgun mic with an emphasis towards the back and get better audio reception that way. One of the other things about the media mod is they intended for you to put the screw through from left to right. With ours, since we are putting it from right to left, it doesn't allow you to take advantage of this kind of cutout here, which really isn't that big of a deal. Like, you can still get the screw in here and it doesn't really get in the way. I mean, I feel like you have plenty of room to grab onto it. It's really not that big a deal. And you actually get more room to grab onto the end of the screw because it's thicker on this side of the media mod. So it's like the screw's set in here deeper. So you can actually grab it a little bit better than when it's actually in this cutout, which is ironic. It works better to have this flip screw direction. And the reason is because you can't change the battery with the media mod on here, because you have to pull the screw out, flip up the feet, and take the GoPro off in order to get the media mod off, so you can't change out batteries anyway. In that case, you're better off just using external power and just running it off of the battery bank. So I want to talk a little bit about chin mounting in general, and why we prefer to mount the cameras to the chin of the helmet rather than anywhere else. So with a depth of field, like if you mount the camera up on top, we've all seen that point of view. What you get is it's looking down on the terrain, which doesn't give you that same depth of field. The chin mounting position is the lowest point you could mount the camera while still being attached to the head. So you get that gimbal effect. It's really stable. You get the first person perspective. It's very centered on your point of view. It doesn't feel like it's to the side, where if you mounted it to the side of the helmet, you have that same problem. It just gives you the deepest point of view. I already mentioned the audio pickup, and lastly, just the protection of it. And it's fairly obvious, right? If you're riding in a wooded area or someplace with a lot of brush, you might get the helmet tipped back or knocked off completely if you are riding through trees or whatever. If it's mounted here on the chin, it's visible for one, so you know that it's still there, you know that it's still running. It's in the right tilt back angle, it's just tucked away, it's out of the way, and if you crash, there's a chance, I guess, yeah, you'll go face first into the dirt and you're, head on, but I think for the most of the head-on crashes that I've had going into the dirt over the bars and whatnot, like, you tend to turn your head, so it is a more kind of protected point of view for the camera, and I don't know, it's just better all the way around. The last thing I want to talk about is mounting these, and this one specifically because actually I found it was a bit of a trick to mount this, and kind of going back to what I was saying in the very beginning, this back edge here had some kind of really unique curves in it, and what I always tell people is hold the mount up to the helmet just so that you understand really where the mount is supposed to go. Like, it's going to fit perfectly. There's not going to be any gaps around it, so you should figure out where that spot is that it actually fits and makes sense, right? Before you pull off the sticky, the backing, the protective backing, because if you try to put it up there and it sticks at all, it's just going to stick to it and it's going to be really hard to mount it after that. So you want to make sure you understand where it goes, and in this case, you really want to make sure this back edge here is lined up with these grooves, because they kind of put some indents here that are really important. And if it gets off in any way, there's a potential for it, since it is so precisely designed for the helmet, to not kind of mount up to the helmet specifically. So you want to make sure that you understand where it goes, and that way when you get it on there, it's just a perfect fit. What you're first going to want to do after you figure out where the mount goes is clean the helmet, make sure the surfaces are all clean of oily residue or dirt or anything that might prevent the helmet or the mount from sticking to the helmet. Then what you're going to want to do is obviously peel off the backing, and there's two ways you can do this, and this is kind of a new development with our mounting strategy. One way you can do it is to pull back on these mounting wings and set it in and then release it. Now you don't want to go in too far, and that's what I mean by understanding where the helmet's supposed to go, because if you really pull these back and set it all the way in and release it, it's going to be, since there's a taper right to the helmet, going to be tighter along this leading edge than it will be in the back. So it's going to force these out, and it's not going to stick all the way in the back, and it'll stick really tight in the front. So you want to make sure that you pull back on the tabs enough, you set it in as deep as it's supposed to go, and then you release it, and that way it sticks all the way around, and you just press it on the edges. There's a second way to do this, and this is something I realized more recently, is take it, and once you understand where that back leading edge is supposed to go, you can set it in kind of at an angle, and then use it to kind of pry against the helmet, and then bring the other side around and then set it in. Because that way it kind of lines it up this way as well as this way. So you set it in there, right? You know where that back leading edge is supposed to go. You pull it back, you bring it around, and then you set it in, and that way both of the back leading edges are lined up perfectly. And it'll stick a little bit at first, so that'll help you kind of keep it from wiggling. And then it just makes it, in some ways it just makes it a lot easier to just wrap it around and drop it in place. I don't know. I found it to be easier with some mounts. Others you can just kind of drop it in there and it works fine. But this one is just really particular in how it gets mounted up in there. You also have like maybe 30 seconds after you get it fully mounted to kind of wiggle it around before the tape really sets. So before you like press it down all the way around, you just want to make sure that you can kind of wiggle it just a little bit, get it in place, and then press it down on the outer edges, and it should stick fine after that. Once you understand where the mount is supposed to go, you're gonna get a cool box here. You're gonna get a mount. You're gonna get a screw. You're gonna get an alcohol cleaning pad, and you're gonna get a couple stickers. All right, guys, that's everything I have to say in this very long and drawn out video about chin mounts. If you like this video, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. There will be links in the description below, and those will be to our shop, so you can find all the different helmet mounts that we make. We'll also put a link to our Instagram channel down there, and that will just give you kind of a perspective on what it looks like to film with our chin mounts, because all of our chin mounts are being used in the filming that we're doing, at least the POV footage that we're putting out there. That's it.